What if the person you believe yourself to be was never actually born? What if your true identity exists before time, before the story of your life even began? In this journey, we'll gently lift the mind's deepest veil, the illusion of a separate self. We will touch the silent presence that is your real essence, the source of unshakable peace. We all feel the weight of our stories, our fears. But what if freedom isn't about changing the story, but seeing right through it? Have you ever felt lost in your own mind, longing for a quiet that feels just out of reach? We walk through life carrying a sense of self, a collection of labels and stories. I am a parent, a professional, an artist. I am my memories, my accomplishments, my failures. I am the anxious thoughts, the lingering sadness from the past, the hopes for the future. This sense of me feels solid, unquestionable. It's the lens through which we see everything. But let's pause here, together. Is this collection, this narrative woven by the mind, truly who you are at the deepest level? Or is it something you've learned to believe? A costume you've worn for so long you've forgotten it's there. This identification, this tight grip on who I think I am, is often the hidden source of our deepest struggles. The fear of losing what defines us, our status, our relationships, even our problems. The constant low hum of anxiety about not being enough, or about what tomorrow might bring. The feeling of being trapped in patterns we can't seem to break. It stems from protecting and defending this constructed self. Isn't there a curious paradox here? We can feel so certain about who we are, listing our traits and history, yet simultaneously feel a sense of confusion, an inner emptiness, or a persistent longing for something more, something undefinable. This very conflict points towards a fundamental disconnect. It suggests that the identity we cling to might not be the whole truth of our being. Even modern psychology observes how we build these self-narratives, these stories we tell ourselves to make sense of our lives. But the ancient wisdom traditions invite us to look even deeper. They don't just analyze the story, they ask, who is the storyteller? Is there even a fixed storyteller at all, or just the telling itself? Take a gentle breath. Consider this, just for a moment, without needing an answer. If you were to peel away all the labels, all the memories, all the future plans, what remains? Who are you truly without your story? Let's consider the mind. Not as the enemy, but not entirely as us either. Think of it as an incredible tool, a ceaseless process of thinking, analyzing, remembering, planning. It's designed to navigate the world, solve problems, create. But its very nature, its constant activity, is also what subtly weaves the veil we often mistake for reality itself. This is sometimes called the veil of Maya in traditions like Advaita Vedanta. It isn't some external cosmic illusion imposed upon us. It's simpler, more intimate than that. It's the way our own mind constantly filters, interprets, and labels experience, creating the appearance of a world full of separate, solid objects, with a separate, solid me at the center of it all. Imagine your mind is like a cinema projector. Thoughts, emotions, sensations, memories. These are the flickering images, the sounds, the unfolding story of the film being projected onto a screen. Naturally, we get engrossed in the movie. We identify with the main character, this me with its dramas, its joys, its fears. We laugh, we cry, we tense up with the plot twists. But in doing so, we forget something fundamental. We forget that we are not merely the character in the film. Our true nature is closer to the screen itself, the silent, unchanging awareness upon which the entire show appears and disappears. The screen is never harmed by the battles fought upon it, never stained by the tears shed. It simply allows the movie to play. How does this projector, the mind, keep us so convinced we are only the character? Through a few key functions. There's the relentless stream of thoughts, a river flowing constantly, whether we pay attention or not. Then comes identification, the subtle, often unconscious act of reaching out and mentally grasping a thought or feeling, claiming it. This thought is me. This anger is mine. This desire defines who I am. And finally, memory and projection. The mind constantly pulls from the past to define the present self, and then projects hopes and fears onto an imaginary future, creating the illusion of a continuous timeline for this constructed self. This story needs time to exist. Think about watching a truly gripping film. You feel the characters' plight, their triumphs. Yet on some level you remain aware that it's just light and shadow on a surface. What if your personal life story, the one you hold so dear, is like that film? A fascinating, compelling show, certainly. But are you only the character caught in the drama? Who or what is aware of the entire display, aware even of the screen itself? That awareness is the key. This constant mental activity is what creates the feeling many of us know so well. The inner noise, the difficulty in simply being quiet, the sensation of being carried away by waves of thought and emotion, unable to find solid ground. If the mind itself weaves this convincing illusion, this veil of separation and time, how can we possibly begin to see through it? Is there something fundamentally real, something untouched, existing behind or beneath this incessant mental stream? Living primarily from this mentally constructed identity, this character in the film has profound consequences for our experience of life. It shapes how we feel, how we relate, and ultimately, how much we suffer. First, it creates a pervasive sense of separation. When we believe we are just this limited bundle of thoughts, memories, and physical form, we naturally feel distinct and isolated from everything else. Like an island adrift in a vast ocean, we feel separate from other people, from the natural world, even from the deeper source or ground of being that spiritual traditions point towards. This feeling of separation is a fertile ground for fear, loneliness, competition, and misunderstanding. Second, identification with the mental self traps us in what we might call psychological time. The constructed me needs a past to define itself and a future to project its hopes and fears onto. So the mind constantly pulls us away from the only time that is ever actually real, the present moment. We find ourselves endlessly ruminating over past regrets, replaying old hurts, or drifting into anxious fantasies about what might happen tomorrow. We are rarely fully here now, because the story of me requires the stage of past and future to play out. And this brings us to the heart of suffering, what the Buddha called dukkha, a deep, underlying unsatisfactoriness. When we are identified with this fragile, temporary self, we inevitably suffer. We grasp tightly onto things we think will enhance or protect this self, possessions, relationships, status, even beliefs. This attachment inevitably leads to the fear of loss, and the pain when loss eventually occurs. We push away experiences that seem to threaten this self. Criticism, failure, discomfort. This aversion creates tension, anger, and conflict. At the root of it all is a fundamental ignorance, or avidya, the ignorance of our true nature beyond this limited self. Consider the metaphor of the ocean and the wave. Imagine the vast, boundless ocean representing pure, undivided consciousness. Out of this ocean, a wave rises. It has a unique form, a certain height. It travels for a while, interacts with other waves, and eventually, inevitably, it subsides back into the ocean. The wave is like the individual self, the personality, the me story. It has its apparent life, but the wave's suffering comes when it forgets its true nature, when it believes it is only the wave, separate from the ocean. It fears its own end, feels small and vulnerable compared to the vastness, clings desperately to its fleeting form. But the truth is, the wave was never separate from the ocean. Its very substance is ocean. It is a temporary manifestation of the ocean itself. This points towards a core teaching found in Buddhism, known as anatta or not self. This isn't a denial of your existence or individuality in a conventional sense. It's the profound insight that when you look closely within your experience, at your body, your feelings, your thoughts, your perceptions, you cannot find a fixed, permanent, independent self or I residing there as a controller or owner. It's not a nihilistic idea, meaning nothing exists. Rather, it's a liberating realization. If there's no solid, unchanging self to protect and defend, then the very root of clinging, aversion, and the suffering they cause begins to dissolve. It's freedom from the burden of being a separate, vulnerable entity. Do you recognize this in your own life? That feeling of being caught in the currents of time, reliving the past or anxiously anticipating the future? Or that subtle, perhaps sometimes overwhelming ache of feeling separate, disconnected, even when surrounded by others? This is the direct consequence of mistaking the wave for the entirety of the ocean. Amidst the constant flow of thoughts, feelings, sensations, and perceptions that make up our daily experience, there is something else. Something fundamentally different. There is an awareness, a knowing presence, that is conscious of all these changing phenomena, but is not itself made of them. This is the silent witness, the pure awareness, sometimes called the self, Atman, or simply being. Think of it like this. Imagine the vast open sky. Clouds drift through it, sometimes white and fluffy, sometimes dark and stormy. Thoughts, emotions, life events, sensations. These are like the clouds. They appear, they change shape and color, they linger for a while, and then they dissolve or move on. But the sky itself, the vast boundless space in which all clouds appear, remains untouched, unchanged, ever present. It doesn't become dark when the storm clouds pass through. It simply allows them to be. We tend to live our lives identified with the clouds, especially the turbulent ones, forgetting that our fundamental nature is like the sky, open, spacious, and inherently peaceful. This isn't just a philosophical concept. It's something you can notice directly in your own experience. Have you ever had moments, perhaps standing in nature, lost in creating art, during deep meditation, or even in a moment of sudden shock or surprise, where the constant chatter of the mind briefly fell silent? In those moments, there wasn't nothingness. There was a clear, vivid sense of just being, a pure, uncomplicated awareness. Even right now, as you listen to these words, notice, there is an awareness present. An awareness that hears the sound of my voice. An awareness that feels the subtle sensations in your body, perhaps the feeling of your breath, the contact of your body with the chair, a sense of warmth or coolness. An awareness that registers the thoughts flickering through your mind. That awareness, the simple knowing presence that is here before any label or judgment, that is what we're pointing to. It's crucial to understand that this witnessing awareness is not just another, more subtle kind of thought, like a super thinker observing the other thoughts. It has no qualities of its own in the way thoughts or emotions do. It's more like the light in a room. The light allows you to see all the objects in the room, the furniture, the colors, the shapes. The light itself doesn't have a shape or color. It is the condition that makes seeing possible. Similarly, this awareness is the formless, timeless space or light in which all experiences, thoughts, feelings, sights, sounds, appear and disappear. It was present when you were a child, and it's present now. It doesn't age. It has no story. It's always here, even when our attention is completely absorbed by the contents of experience, by the clouds. Practices like mindfulness offer a beautiful gateway to recognizing this. When you consciously choose to observe your thoughts and feelings as they arise, without automatically believing them, judging them, or getting swept away by them, simply noticing them as events in consciousness, you begin to create a little space. You start to sense the difference between the observer, the awareness, and the observed, the thought or feeling. This act of disidentified observation is the beginning of recognizing yourself as the spacious sky, not just the passing clouds. So just for this moment, can you gently shift your attention? Can you sense, perhaps very subtly at first, the quiet stillness that exists behind or underneath all the mental noise? The silent, aware space in which all sounds and thoughts are currently happening. Beyond passively observing the mind, there's a more direct path, a master key, offered by sages like Ramana Maharshi to cut through the illusion of the separate self. This is the practice of self-inquiry, centered around the simple yet profoundly potent question, who am I? Now, it's vital to understand that this is not an invitation to intellectual speculation. We are not looking for a clever concept or a satisfying mental answer like, I am a soul, or I am consciousness, or I am energy. While those ideas might hold some truth, the inquiry itself aims deeper than the thinking mind. Instead, who am I is used as a tool to turn attention directly inward, towards the very source of the feeling of I itself. When a thought or feeling arises, particularly one strongly charged with the sense of self, I am feeling anxious. I want that. I need to achieve this. I am hurt. The inquiry gently intercepts it. You ask inwardly, with genuine curiosity, to whom has this anxiety arisen? Who is this I that wants? Who is this I that feels hurt? The purpose here isn't to get an answer from the mind. In fact, the mind might offer many answers trying to define the I. The real aim is to trace the feeling of I back to its root. It's like following a single thread back to the spool it came from. Each time you sincerely ask, who am I, or to whom does this arise, you are redirecting attention away from the manifestation, the thought, the emotion, the story, and pointing it towards the silent, aware source from which the sense of I seems to emerge. You follow the I thought inward, looking for its substance, its location. What you often find is not a concrete entity, but rather, the questioning itself dissolves the solidity of the I thought, revealing the quiet awareness in which it appeared. This practice requires no elaborate beliefs or complex preparations. Its power lies in its utter simplicity and the honest willingness to look directly at your own immediate experience of being. It can be done anywhere, anytime, amidst the activities of daily life. When confusion arises, ask, to whom? When desire pulls, ask, who desires? When fear grips, ask, who is afraid? Here lies a crucial difference from many other approaches. Instead of trying to suppress, change, or even just passively observe thoughts and feelings, self-inquiry uses their very energy. It harnesses the arising I thought or emotion as a pointer, redirecting its momentum back towards the fundamental awareness that underlies all experience. It uses the wave to find the ocean, so perhaps the next time a strong sense of I arises, a powerful opinion, a deep-seated fear, a surge of pride, I can't handle this, I must have that. Pause for just a second. Turn inward with gentle, open curiosity and ask, who is this I that is feeling this right now? Don't strain for an answer. Just see where your attention naturally goes when you look for the owner of that feeling. What do you find? Or perhaps more accurately, what dissolves? So we've journeyed through the mind's intricate weavings, the illusion of the separate self it creates. We've glimpsed the silent witness, the ever-present awareness that observes the unfolding show. And we've explored the power of self-inquiry to turn attention back towards its source. Now we arrive at the heart of the revelation, the point where all paths converge. The profound truth is this: the identity you have been searching for, the peace you long for, the wholeness you seek, is not something you need to build, achieve, or find somewhere else. It is not a future destination. It is the very awareness that is reading these words, the presence that is experiencing this moment, right here, right now. Let's bring our metaphors together. The self born in time, the one with a name, a history, fears and desires, that is the wave, the cloud, the character in the film. It's a temporary pattern, a fleeting appearance, a rising and subsiding within something vast and unchanging. Your true nature is the ocean itself, the boundless sky, the silent screen upon which the entire movie of life plays out. You are not the limited form. You are the formless space that allows the form to be. Here is the great turning point, the twist in the cosmic plot. The search for yourself ends the moment you recognize that you are the seeker. You are the very consciousness that animates the search, the awareness looking through your eyes. You don't have consciousness as a possession. You are consciousness, pure, simple, undivided. This is the deeper meaning behind the phrase, "Who you are was never born." This awareness, this fundamental presence, has no beginning in time or location in space. It didn't emerge when your body was born, and it won't cease when the body dies. It is the timeless, spaceless substratum of all existence, the silent reality that was here before the universe appeared and will be here after it dissolves. It simply is. The liberation, the profound aha moment, doesn't come from somehow destroying the mind or permanently stopping thoughts. That's often an impossible struggle. The freedom dawns when you simply cease to identify with the thoughts and the story they weave. It's like suddenly realizing, while engrossed in the movie, that you are actually the untouchable screen. It's like feeling the motion of the wave while knowing, deeply and unshakably, that your true identity is the entire ocean. The mind can continue its activity. The waves can rise and fall, but you are no longer exclusively caught in that limited perspective. Resting in this understanding, even for brief moments at first, brings an unmistakable sense of release. A lightness enters your being. The constant burden of defending and maintaining the fragile ego self begins to lift. There's a quiet peace that isn't dependent on external circumstances. It's a feeling of coming home to yourself, to the boundless space you always were, beneath the layers of conditioning and belief. It's remembering who you are before the story began. And please know this. This realization is not reserved for faraway mystics or ancient sages living in caves. It is your inherent nature, your birthright. It is closer to you than your own breath, more intimate than your very thoughts. It is the simple, undeniable fact of your own being, waiting patiently beneath the noise of the mind for your recognition. Recognizing our true nature as awareness is profound, but how do we begin to live from this understanding in our busy, often chaotic daily lives? The key lies not in grand gestures, but in simple, consistent practice. Let's explore one incredibly accessible way: the practice of simple noticing or mindful witnessing. It requires no special posture, no quiet room, though those can help. You can do it right now, wherever you are. Here's how simple it is. First, just pause. Intentionally, for just 5 or 10 seconds, interrupt the momentum of doing and thinking. Take a gentle breath if that helps anchor you. Second, simply notice what is happening in your immediate experience right now. Become aware of the sounds around you, without needing to label or judge them. Notice the physical sensations present in your body. The feeling of contact, perhaps tension somewhere, the rise and fall of your breath. Gently acknowledge any thoughts that are drifting through your mind, seeing them like clouds passing in the sky, without getting on board with them. If there are emotions present, simply notice the feeling tone in the body, without needing to analyze its story. Third, and this is crucial, observe all of this without judgment and, most importantly, without identifying. You are not trying to change anything, fix anything, or figure anything out. You are simply being the aware space in which these sounds, sensations, thoughts, and feelings are appearing and disappearing. See them as objects in your awareness, not as who you are. Even these brief micro-pauses of conscious noticing throughout your day create a profound shift. Instead of being habitually lost inside the stream of thought and reaction, you practice resting as the background awareness, the open space that holds it all. Each time you do this, you gently weaken the deep-seated habit of identifying with the mind's contents. You train the muscle of the witnessing presence. Even small moments of this practice can bring flickers of clarity, calm, and a refreshing sense of inner spaciousness right in the midst of your day's demands. It helps you respond to life with more presence and less reactivity. Remember to be kind and patient with yourself. The habit of identifying with the thinking mind is ancient and strong. This isn't about achieving perfection or never getting lost in thought again. It's about gently, repeatedly, returning your attention to the simple fact of awareness itself, changing your relationship to your thoughts and feelings, not necessarily eliminating them. Each moment of noticing is a small victory, a step back into the truth of your being. So, our journey together has led us from the entanglement in the thinking mind, the veil of the imagined self, towards the recognition of the silent, timeless presence that you fundamentally are. We've seen that the self we thought was born and lives in time is but a story, and our true nature, this awareness, was never born and can never die. As the sage Nisargadatta Maharaj beautifully expressed it, wisdom tells me I am nothing. Love tells me I am everything. And between the two, my life flows. Seeing through the nothing of the constructed self reveals the everything of boundless being. And now, just for this moment, beneath any lingering thoughts or plans, can you sense the quiet aliveness, the simple stillness that just is? That boundless presence is your true home, always available. If this exploration resonated with you, please show your support by liking this video, subscribing to Mystic Sages for more journeys into wisdom, and sharing it with others who might be seeking this clarity. And we'd love to hear from you. In the comments below, share just one word that describes how you feel, contemplating the idea that your truest essence was never born. Perhaps peace, curiosity, relief, resistance. There's no right or wrong answer. Remember, this path of dissolving the veil is a return to what you already are right now. Be gentle with yourself in this unfolding. The presence is always here, patiently waiting for your recognition. Until next time, may you rest in that peace.